Welcome to Fireside Giants. My name is Alex with my co-host here, Anthony Rivardo. Back at it today for another New York Giants video. And a lot went on today, my friends. A lot went on at Giants training camp, ranging from negative stuff to awesome stuff to fights to brawls to Logan Ryan hitting Evan Ingram and then Evan Ingram falling on his butt. But he's catching a lot of passes, so good stuff there. But I'm really excited to talk about what went down today, all the positives we saw. There is one major negative that's kind of hanging over our heads. We're waiting to see what happens there, but we'll talk about it all, get you guys informed, ready to go for tomorrow's practice. This was the full practice with full pads on, my friends. We are back in the New York groove, and we got preseason game coming up in 11 days, August 14th against the New York Jets at 7:30 p.m., You know we're hyped, and it's going to be super fun the next 10 days, getting our guys into good shape, into action, getting some hitting going, hopefully staying fully healthy. Big point of emphasis there. But Anthony, before we dive into the nitty-gritties, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great. I'm hyped. I'm amped up. Giants training camp, first practice with pads on. That's always exciting. And, of course, tempers flared. The pads must have brought out some anger, must have brought out some extra intensity from the Giants. And that's always exciting to see, in my opinion. I love seeing when the players just get so into it and they get so defensive of each other, and that camaraderie just, kind of gets the best of them for a second. But can camaraderie really get the best of you? Of course, they got into a brawl. Joe Judge ripped them to pieces, but they'll be stronger because of it, and I love the culture, Joe Judge laying down the gavel rather, and smacking all the players into shape. And I don't know, man, I'm really excited, seeing these players, some of them returning from injuries, Kadarius Toney being one of them. Of course, we do have a little injury scare that we got to update you guys on and talk about, but things do look pretty positive and look really exciting as we ramp up here into preseason in just 10 or 11 days. And I'm excited, man. It's going to be a fun time, and I'm ready to see the players play with some more pads on.
Yes, sir. And let's talk about the positives where we have to dive into a few negatives. One of them being, go figure, the offense had a good day. Everybody was saying, not everybody, but some very key media members had stories written saying the offense is struggling. We should be concerned. Daniel Jones is missing passes. Kenny Galladay's dropping passes. Whatever. The red zone drills were not going well. They're not scoring. Well, they can all stay quiet now because as of today, Daniel Jones had two touchdown passes in 3 red zone drills, 2 touchdown passes, and a touchdown run. I mean, what else can you ask of this guy? David Sills had 2 of the touchdown passes. He had all of them. Daniel Jones didn't have an incompletion during team drills, during 11v11 drills. Tell me the offense is struggling. He had his best day of camp so far. How we have been hammering down, Anthony and I have been hammering down that we should not be concerned yet, that Daniel Jones would bounce back, that this offense was in freaking shells and shorts, throwing the football, running around, not looking great. But when you put the pads on, everything changes. The competitiveness comes to life, and they look great. Evan Ingram has been catching everything. Kadarius Toney was even out there. This is it, man. We've been saying it. We've been trying to hammer it home. If you listen to us, you're on the right train. If you didn't listen to us, then you fell into the bait trap that the media wanted you to. They had to create headlines around the first week of practice. It's all about making money for the media, my friends. They're all trying to make money. We're in it too, but we're trying to give you the good stuff. We're trying to give you the honest truth and not trying to create negativity when there's no reason to. You know what I mean? A lot of headlines coming out that the offense is struggling, but we stay true. We wanted to give you guys the real stuff and not try to make money off of you. So here we are now with the offense doing well, and everyone's like, oh, well, we all knew it from the beginning, so here we are. Anthony, how are you feeling about this offense? David Sills standing out. Evan Ingram really looking great, not dropping any passes, but he always does this every training camp. Looks freaking awesome, and then drops him in the game. So it really has to translate to the regular season. Daniel Jones looking really good. Are you optimistic about this team moving forward?
Of course, I'm optimistic. I think, of course, the media was trying to run a slightly negative narrative about the offense, saying that they were struggling and that the defense was getting the better of them pretty much every single practice. Of course they were, and I said this on yesterday's episode. The drills that they've been doing, the scrimmages that they've been doing, have pretty much primarily only been in the red zone. When the field is shrunk, the offense has about 15 to 20 yards to work with, 30 in total if you're at the 20-yard line plus the back of the end zone. And that's a really small field for an offense, but that's a really, really nice spot to be in if you're the defense scrimmaging in training camp. So, of course, the defense is going to make more plays. They've got their backs against the wall, and they have a shrunken field for the offense to operate in. So, of course, the offense was going to struggle. But today, they throw the pads on, they ramp the intensity upward, and they have a full field to work with. Duh, of course they're going to improve. Of course they're going to look better with a full field and with pads and hitting and blocking and all of that kind of stuff. So I knew that this was going to happen. I knew that the offense, as soon as the pads went on and they had a full field to scrimmage on, I knew that they would improve and they would look better. Of course, it's going to matter more how they look in preseason leading up to the regular season. I think that's key, is how they look against different competition and different defenses. But it is, it does make me feel optimistic to see that the offense is improving and that we weren't wrong about, them being better once they have the pads on and have a full field to work with. We were right about that. That's what they needed. They needed that to kind of spark themselves and give themselves more room to work with and more of a reason to be intense and have a lot of intensity, high intensity practice. So I'm very, warmed up by the fact that Daniel Jones was playing so well. I saw that Sterling Shepard was just taking ankles all day, like no one could guard him. That's exciting as well, as a number 2 receiver on this team now, especially. I'm very optimistic now. Yeah, I do feel a lot better now that the offense is finally clicking. I knew that they would. It's early in training camp, so of course there's going to be struggles. The defense always comes in ahead of the offense. I also explained that like an episode or two ago. You got to keep in mind, there wasn't a lot of overturn on the defense. Pretty much all of the same core players are still there and playing the same roles. But on the offense, new receiving core. Running back, the starter, is not there. And the former starter, like the former backup that was starting last year, not there. Offensive line, a lot of overturn there as well. And especially on the coaching staff regarding the offensive line. So just a lot of changes on the offense. Of course, they need some time to warm up. But on the defense, there wasn't really that many changes. There was pretty much a lot of continuity. Everything was the same, minus maybe Danny Shelton playing nose tackle instead. But you're not going to feel the effects of that in training camp anyway, right? You're not going to feel that until the regular season. So, like I said, I knew that the offense would be behind to start, but they're obviously catching up to speed right now. That's really exciting, and I think it's going to continue to be that way. And hopefully we could see them have some good outings in preseason so they can gain some confidence once we get to the regular season and can hopefully be at the same level of talent or skill and dominance, hopefully, as the defense once the regular season begins.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. And one guy that stood out to me, Sterling Shepard, right? I know, Anthony, you were saying before, Sterling Shepard has absolutely killed it so far, and he toasted Darnay Holmes. Man, I hope they're using his ankles in those Chipotle chicken bowls right now, man. Those shredded chicken bowls. Unbelievable how badly he got his ankles toasted. I mean, Sterling Shepard, Anthony, correct me if I'm wrong, is going to feast against CB2s, CB3s, slot corners. Are you thinking the same way?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, he has to be that guy. I think he could probably lead the team in receptions this year, personally. He really has the ability. He was just overshadowed last year because he is not a number 1 receiver. You know what I mean? Like, Sterling Shepard is not a number 1 receiver. He is a perfect complement to a number 1 receiver like Kenny Golladay. And I think he's really going to maximize his potential now because of that. Changing back to number 3. I mean, are you seeing him as a leader of receptions on this team? Are you seeing him as a deadly red zone threat? I know you are a big component of his in the RZ.
Yeah, I don't know about leading the team in receptions. I think that's kind of going to be a race between him and, you know what? I'm actually going to throw a different name in here. I think it's going to be a race between him and Kenny Golladay. But let's see how Saquon Barkley does in this offense once he gets to full health. Because didn't he lead the team in receptions during his rookie season? He had 91 receptions that year.
But it was just because they were dinking and dunking to him because the offensive line was trash.
Of course, but the offensive line, a lot of us do expect it to be trash again. And if he is a focal point of the receiving game, I could see him being number 2 in receptions or 3. Definitely top 3 Saquon for sure if he's fully healthy all year. But that's an interesting name to keep an eye on, but we got to give him some time to get back to full health anyway. But yeah, Sterling Shepard in the red zone though, he was 9 for 9, 3 touchdowns.
Insane.
And, yeah, like he had 9 targets in the red zone in 2020. Caught all of them and had 3 touchdowns and I think 5 first down conversions. Like the dude was unstoppable in the red zone. He was a beast. The Giants really need to utilize him more in their
Jason Garrett. Season. Not the Giants. Jason Garrett.
Garrett.
Took him until week 17. Took him until week 17 to figure out that Sterling Shepard should be utilized in the red zone way more. He had 2 touchdowns against Dallas.
Yep, he did have 2 touchdowns against Dallas. One of them was from the 30-yard line, so technically didn't count as a red zone touchdown. But
It was the end around, right? Was that the end around?
Yeah, that was the end around. That was a
Okay.
30-yard run.
Still,
but the other one was
for the
in
Giants,
the red zone. He ran a nice whip route and then got open, which is exactly what you want from Sterling Shepard. When the field
Right.
is smaller and you need some elite short route running, Sterling freaking Shepard. That's like he is an elite short to intermediate route runner. He's one of the best short route runners in the NFL, in my opinion, and I think a lot of people share that opinion with me. So I think, this season, once the field is shrunk and the Giants are in the red zone, have him run some more whip routes, even some screens. Just get creative. Let him run some routes and beat some people in man coverage in the red zone. And I think you're going to see a huge season in the complimentary role from Sterling Shepard. Like Alex said, complimentary role next to Kenny Golladay. Remember how good Sterling Shepard was in 2016 when he was playing next to Odell Beckham Jr.?
So good.
It's going to be the same thing. He just needs to be a compliment. He's not a number one guy, but he doesn't need to be now. He can be that number two, and he can dominate as a number two just like he did in 2016. So I'm hyped for Sterling Shepard. I think a big year is in store for him.
And I want him to go back into the slot more. Now that we have Kenny G outside, we needed Sterling outside because we just didn't have any threats out there. You need attention to be on the outside and the boundaries. But now you can use Shep in that slot role. You can use him in the X, or rather the Z role. You can use Kadarius Toney, vice versa, in the slot and Z. And I think those mesh concepts between what I would like to see them do is get Evan Ingram, if they're using like 11 personnel, let's say. I want to see Evan Ingram, Kadarius Toney, and Sterling Shepard doing a lot in the middle of the field, creating a lot of confusion for those linebackers, meshing and crossing, those slide routes, those drag routes, even those in and ups or out and ups. Just getting those linebackers to fall for traps. That's kind of what I want, because if you can get those linebackers to bait, you can bait those linebackers into making mistakes. That's where guys like Evan Ingram can attack the seams, and they're going to be wide open. Because you have your guys like Darius Slayton, you have your guys like Kenny Golladay on the outside demanding attention from the safeties up top, from the cornerbacks. They're going to be having to play a lot of cover 2 man and cover 3, probably trying to keep the deeper portions of the field on lockdown. But if you can clear those linebackers out of the box by using those mesh concepts, it's going to allow the running game to really look good. It's going to allow Saquon Barkley to hit the second level and have a ton of room to work with. So I think it should be able to push the defense a little bit downfield and stretch the field for the Giants. But I really want them to operate, especially in motion too. I want them to have a lot of in motion, like breaking routes. So like by the time that they're ready to start their route, when it's post snap now, they're already in motion, like they're running. So that really gives them a little bit of a head start, and it forces you, well, also allows you to figure out if they're playing man or zone. There's a lot of things that pre-snap motion can help you with, and the Giants have so much talent to really execute it well this year. If Jason Garrett doesn't do it, I'm going to be really disappointed.
Yeah, for sure. I love pre-snap motion. I think it's super important. If you look at those Kyle Shanahan wide zone offenses, they emphasize pre-snap motion to a T, because it's really, really important, and it allows such an advantage, in terms of your matchups offensively. You can read defenses so much better when you have, players coming in motion, and you also give them that head start, that running head start before the snap even begins. And I think that's going to be useful for a guy like Kadarius Toney. He's going to come in motion, line up in the slot. He's already going to have a full head of steam. Then he's just going to take off, because he is a fast wide receiver. So that's kind of perfect there. But another thing that I want to mention is when we're talking about Sterling Shepard's role and moving him back into the slot and having Kenny G play that X role, I also think of Darius Slayton and think about how big of a year he could even have, because you think of Kenny Golladay as that perfect X receiver. Last year we had Darius Slayton playing that X receiver role, and one thing that I noticed was he often struggled to get off of press coverage. Like when cornerbacks were jamming him at the line of scrimmage, he was struggling to really be physical enough to push those guys off and then begin his route and get open. Like his release just was not good against jam coverages sometimes. And if you go look at the analytics as well, like the metrics by Next Gen Stats, he wasn't separating too good either. And I think that he is a pretty good underrated route runner. I think he runs a more complete route tree than people like to give him credit for. I think that he's pretty good on those slants and underneath routes when he needs to be. But he is more of a vertical threat. But the problem to me has always been he was forced to be that X receiver, that number one primary receiver in the Giants offense. And again, he's not really fit for that role, and neither is Sterling Shepard, like we just mentioned. But I think now you're talking about him in the Z receiver role, where you're a yard back off the line of scrimmage, and Kenny Galladay's on the line of scrimmage. Kenny Galladay, no one's press covering Kenny Galladay and jamming him at the line of scrimmage. He's 6'4". He can bench press any of the quarterbacks in the NFL. Like, the dude is ginormous, and he's gonna go up and moss them anyway, right? Darius Slayton, not exactly built like that. Kenny Galladay is the definition of built different. I got to say that. But Darius Slayton is built pretty good. But I think that's why him in that Z receiver role, when he's a yard away from the line of scrimmage and he has some space between him and a corner that wants to jam him at the line, you're just going to see him run a much better route tree, get a lot more separation, not having to deal with such aggressive cornerbacks all the time. So, yeah, I mean, we're just kind of talking and on a tangent here about the impact of Kenny Golladay on this offense, and I think it's just so exciting to see how he could affect guys like Sterling Shepard and guys like Darius Slayton if he stays healthy. Right, Alex?
It is really about the health for Shep. Every
For
training
Kenny
camp.
Golladay.
For Kenny Golladay, too. For all of them, Shep and Kenny Golladay. Shep always gets injured during training camp. Kenny Golladay now coming up gimpy with a little, what seemed like a left hamstring issue. And I will say this, it didn't look that bad because he walked off the field without a gimp, without any ginger step. I think they were just precautionary. They didn't want to test it. We went down, Tate Crowder stripped the ball from him. And he was holding the left hammy, which is never a good sign because he grabbed it immediately. They stretched him out. The trainer didn't seem like it was that big of a deal. They didn't cart him off like they did Shane Lemieux, who's now day to day. He's not even out for that long. So I'm going to remain positive until we know more. But he walked off. He seemed to be okay. Maybe at most it's a grade 1 hamstring strain. He'll be out for a week. I don't think he was going to get much action during the first preseason game anyway. Maybe like the first drive, if that, maybe 5-6 snaps at most. So worst case scenario, he comes back for the second preseason game. He's all healed up and they get him some more action. But this is something to keep an eye on, something to be aware of.
Yeah, and one thing that I'll say is thank God he didn't reach over and grab his hip, right? Because his hip is what kept him out from week 5 to the end of the season last year. Some people were a little bit concerned. They were like, oh, Kenny Golladay, is he going to be healthy? His hip was really a problem last year. I think he had surgery on his hip. So thank God he didn't reach over for his hip and, walk off because of that. Hamstring, that's definitely much better than the hip injury.
Yeah, anything but the hip, anything but that reoccurring issue. So with the Giants now, we'll keep you updated on how this goes, what Kenny Galladay's situation is looking like, and any updates that do follow on Empire Sports Media. I will post an article on Twitter and whatnot immediately once it happens. We have more information. But another interesting tidbit from the Brawl, I do want to talk about the Brawl and what happened in terms of Logan Ryan and Evan Ingram and what Daniel Jones had to say and Joe Judge and him cussing and screaming like a maniac. I love the fights in training camp. Some people are like, oh, it's bad for chemistry, blah, 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 blah. These guys are competing. That's what Daniel Jones said. He said, it's competitive. We're in full pads. We're hitting each other. This stuff happens, and it's football. Like, it's a physical game. It's modern-day gladiators. You know what I mean? Like, these guys are going full force, grown-ass men hitting each other. Fights are going to happen. And, Jabril Peppers, I think, or Xavier McKinney was the one that hit Corey Clement after he broke out through a run. And then Logan Ryan pushed Evan Ingram after Evan Ingram gave Xavier McKinney a shove. And then, a melee ensued. And Daniel Jones ended up at the bottom of the pile. And, of course, our guy Nick Gates was dragging Daniel Jones by his heels out of the bottom of the pile. Love that guy. Continues to be one of the more positive players for this unit. And I think him having a starting position on that team is essential.
He needs a captain's patch. That guy is like the ultimate leader, the warrior. He'll go to bat for any player. He deserves a captain's patch. He
does. I think that he will earn one, if not this year, at some point. Such an affordable player for us now. I think he signed an extension last year, and for the most part, he is one of those guys that he shows up every time somebody needs help. Daniel Jones needs help, he's there. Doesn't matter if it's Aaron Donald, doesn't matter if it's Arnold Schwarzenegger in Terminator mode. Nick Gates is there to help him, and that is something that doesn't go unnoticed. We notice those things. The players notice those things, that when those guys show up and they make it known that they're there for their teammates, and the offense and defense did it for both of them. Did it for each other. And while Joe Judge screamed at them, made them run sprints, made them do push-ups, in my opinion, it was a positive thing. It shows these guys care. It shows that these guys are competing. It shows these guys are ready to win. And Logan Ryan said after the game, his locker room's right next to Evan Ingram. They'll get over it. They're buddies. They're friends. It's not going to be a lasting thing. It's just in the heat of battle, things happen. And they're on the same team, so they understand that, they'll get over it. But at the same time, they had Matthias Kiwanuka, they had Justin Tuck, they had Osi Umenyiora come and talk to them yesterday, and they were essentially like, those guys told us about what it takes to be a winning team, what it takes to win a Super Bowl, and you have to have griminess, you have to have chippiness to you. You play in New Jersey, man. If you live in New Jersey, if you're a worker in New Jersey, you got to have some chippiness. If you've ever met anyone from New Jersey, they got some attitude, and like the Giants got to have some attitude, and like Joe Judge said, you got to be able to provide a product on the field that represents the hardworking people of this New York, New Jersey area. And I think we expect it, we need it, because we do enough hard stuff, hard work every single day. Watching this Giants team suck makes it that much more difficult. So I think this positivity, it really helps us. I think the fighting, the mentality, the passion, it all makes me excited. It all makes me optimistic this team is going to be good next year. And Anthony, I don't know if you feel the same down in Florida, but I imagine coming from Long Island and sitting in traffic for 2.5 hours at times, you understand what it takes to be in pain.
Of course, I understand what it takes to be in pain, and I don't want to be in pain any longer, and I don't think that we will be in pain for much longer. I'm really confident in the Giants right now. Of course, you guys all know, leader of the Joe Judge fan club. I got it on me. Joe Judge fan club. Join it if you haven't already, because if you're not on the Joe Judge hype train, you're missing out. It's a lot of fun, and Joe Judge really, if you really watch the guy and you study what he's been doing for the Giants, you will fully believe that he is going to be that next Super Bowl head coach for the Giants. Like, he is a leader of men, and he is a guy that all of the players love, like adore, and have all bought into his message, and they all have rave reviews about him. Like, I loved hearing Danny Shelton the other day. I posted the clip on Instagram. Follow us on Instagram, Fireside Giants, if you haven't. I posted the clip of Danny Shelton talking about rejoining Joe Judge in a way, because he knew him when he was on the New England Patriots. Danny Shelton did, and he's like, it's the same Joe Judge, but this is a guy that you just love to play for. He was saying stuff about how much he loves playing for Joe Judge, how he just brings that energy. He's just a player's coach, and I think that's perfect. That's what the Giants needed, because the last two coaches, they were not players' coaches. You can say that, like, objectively. Pat Shurmur was not a player's coach. What his mission was to fix the offense. He didn't really even do that. But he wasn't good with the media, and he wasn't good at getting the players on the same page and investing in a culture and building a brand, and building a family feeling inside the New York Giants building. Joe Judge has done that so well, building that family feeling. Even when we were talking to Patty Traina and Matt Lombardo, Art Stapleton, talking to all these people on our charity live stream, they were all telling us that same message, that you can feel a difference in the building since Joe Judge got here, that there is a sense of family, a real sense of a culture that's been restored, and how he's placed an emphasis on certain things that the last two coaches didn't, but Tom Coughlin did. And even one of those things, like, this is kind of, this was like a small tidbit of information that I received that on the surface might not look like a lot, but really speaks volumes to the character of Joe Judge and the character of our last two head coaches. When I was setting up that charity live stream and I was talking to the people who work for the Tom Coughlin J Fund, they were telling me that the foundation hasn't really had much of a connection with the current Giants team for the past 5 years or so, 4 years or so. Ever since Tom Coughlin left, they haven't really had that relationship with the team, which is like, well, why not? I understand Tom Coughlin's not with the Giants anymore, but that has always been a focal point for the team. Well, now it is again. Joe Judge has really made it clear to the players that he wants them involved with the Tom Coughlin J Fund, and that's something that I learned when talking with them, that he actually really deeply cares about the TCJ Fund, and he's placed an emphasis on that. And so on the surface, that might not look like a lot, but when you look at the culture that the last two head coaches had, and how they kind of ignored one of the most important charitable foundations that was built by a New York Giant legend.
It's about respect.
They placed no emphasis on it. I think it was disrespectful, but Joe Judge has put the respect back, and he's placed an emphasis back on it, and he's getting the players on board as well. I know there's guys like Levine Toilolo they mentioned specifically. He cares deeply about the TCJ Fund. It's not like he has any long-term ties with the Giants. That had to have been brought to him by Joe Judge. And
it's not about the Giants. Again, it was
just
about freaking kids.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
It's about kids, but yeah, I mean, kids dealing with the worst thing possible. And like I said, the last two head coaches didn't place much of an emphasis on it, but Joe Judge is making sure that the Giants are now involved with the TCJ Fund again. Like, they'll be present at the next Champion for Children's Gala, and I think that's really exciting. And they even said that Joe Judge during the season even will be willing to work with them. He'll make time aside from his busy season schedule to work with the TCJ fund. Like, that stuff is awesome to me, and it just speaks volume to the character of Joe Judge. And so when people are like, why are you so obsessed with this man? It's like, because I know a lot about him, and I know how awesome of a person he is and how deeply he cares about sensitive topics and, really important things like that. And just the culture that he's bringing back to the Giants, it's so important. And those are the behind the scenes things that change a team and really can propel them to like really great future success.
Yeah, I mean, aside from that, just look what they did the other day. They went to Newark and really performed in front of the kids and really connected with them, and gave them a kind of an insight into a brighter future. And I think that's a special thing too. They're going out of their way to help the community, and Joe Judge values the community. He wants the players to feel like they're welcomed, to have the fans and new fans become engaged and really help this team and will them to positivity. That's why I try to be as positive as possible, because a lot of people are willing to create negative storylines, and we've seen what it's done to players in the past. You know what I mean? Like when Eli Apple was first here and he made a couple mistakes, they torched him and he felt it and he went crazy. OBJ, the biggest example, the New York media, in my opinion, drove OBJ mad. Ever since he went to Cleveland, the guy has been quiet. The guy's done his thing. I haven't heard a peep out of OBJ, a peep. But the New York media drove the guy nuts. And I think that's just part of the New York aura. And I think Joe Judge understands that you have to control the media perspective and perception. You have to control the media if you want the players to understand what it takes to play here at a high level. And if you showcase the positive things, if you really stay off the social media apps, if you're Daniel Jones and you're guys that have high priority jobs who are going to get a lot of criticism, stay away from it. Just don't check it as much. These guys, some of them are more inclined to, like, look at Dwayne Haskins. Guy drove himself crazy on social media. And I think, a lot of these players are influenced by it. That's just the modern day of age of the NFL. Just social media is a very big part of it. And it becomes a very big part of their lives at the same time. So I think Joe Judge is doing such a good job of creating a positive narrative around this team, helping kids, working really hard, putting up, even if it's just practice, disciplinary rules and the disciplinary guidelines he's imposed, has had a positive impact. And at the very least, we feel like they're training hard enough to be a great team. If they don't end up being a good team, it's not because they didn't try. It's because they don't have, for whatever reason, they just don't have the talent. They don't have the coaching staff to get it done. Maybe the scheme wasn't good, like Jason Garrett's scheme at times. Maybe it's just things that they need to solve, but it's not because the guys don't work hard. Because I will tell you what, this is the hardest working team I've seen since Tom Coughlin's days as a hard-ass coach, like way back when. So I think right now I feel good about the team for that reason. And I'm optimistic moving forward. But that wraps up our episode today, talking about, training camp and Joe Judge and why we think this team is headed in the right direction. The offense had a fantastic day. I want to leave you with this statistic specifically. Daniel Jones was 7 for 7 in full team periods and 4 for 4 in 7 on 7s. He had multiple touchdown passes, including 2 to David Sills. Say less, my friend. Say less. He had a good day with pads on. Optimistic. I'm passionate. I'm positive. Let's keep it that way. Let's keep the good stuff flowing. I think they will respond because of it. So, my friends, I hope you had a fantastic time listening to our episode today. And make sure to subscribe below on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. Notifications on. As always, we'll have some awesome content for you coming in the coming days. Hopefully, we'll do a live stream very soon. Going through a couple topics, and we'll have you guys asking questions and answering them as well. So, we'll catch you guys on the next video, and have a fantastic rest of your day.